I quietly rolled my suitcase across the lobby floor, the wheels making hardly any sound on the marble. It was almost midnight. I decided to come back from my business trip 3 days early because the negotiations ended sooner than expected. I was excited to surprise my wife, Sarah, who thought I was still in New York. As the elevator went up to our floor, I felt a mix of excitement and relief about being home. I thought about how surprised she would be, but I wasn't prepared for what I found. When I got to the hallway of our apartment, I noticed the door was slightly open. A faint, strange light came through the gap. My heart started racing with confusion and a growing sense of fear. I pushed the door open and was hit by the smell of cigarettes. The sharp, strong odor was everywhere, clinging to our furniture. But Sarah never smoked. My heart raced faster as I moved quietly through the apartment. The living room was empty, with only the TV's flickering light on the couch. Had Sarah started smoking? The thought was ludicrous, yet the evidence was undeniable. I heard a faint sound from the direction of our bedroom. The muffled laughter of a woman, Sarah's laughter, followed by a deeper, unfamiliar male voice. My stomach churned. With every step toward the bedroom, the voices grew clearer, their carefree cadences a stark contrast to the tight knot of betrayal forming in my chest. The sight that greeted me confirmed my worst fears. There on our bed, amidst the tangled sheets, was Sarah with a man I had never seen. They were wrapped in an embrace, lost in their illicit moment. They hadn't noticed me yet. The man's shirt was tossed carelessly over our bedroom chair, his suit jacket hanging from the post of our bed, my side of the bed, a stark deviation from her usual pristine style. Frozen in the doorway, I watched as he whispered something in her ear, eliciting a giggle from her that sliced through me. The room spun slightly as a cold, hard resolve settled over my shock. They remained oblivious to my presence, caught up in their betrayal. Turning quietly, I retreated back into the shadows of the hallway. The rage building within me was cold and sharp. I needed a plan, something cunning and devastating. Revenge would be meticulous and total. As I slipped out the door, the smell of cigarettes seemed to mock me. I knew then that it wouldn't just be a reminder of their betrayal. It would be the herald of their undoing. The cool evening breeze does little to calm my raging thoughts as I paced the sidewalk outside the trendy bistro, Le Jardin. It's here that I had tracked Sarah and her mystery lover after seeing a string of messages light up her forgotten watch at home. Their laughter, still fresh in my memory, fuels my resolve. Inside, the bistro hums with the low buzz of conversation, the clink of glasses, and the subtle notes of a jazz piano in the corner. I spot them almost instantly, nestled in a secluded booth, bathed in the warm glow of an overhead lamp. Her hand rests casually on his, their fingers entwined with an intimacy that makes my blood boil. Pushing the door open, I stride confidently toward their table, my every step measured. The clatter around me dims as my focus narrows on my target. Sarah, what a surprise, I say, my voice dripping with feigned cheerfulness as I reach their table. They jerk apart, her eyes wide with shock, his with something akin to defiance. James, you're early, Sarah says, her voice trailing off as her face turns a guilty red. And you must be the friend Sarah has barely mentioned, I say, looking at the man who is nervously standing up and smoothing his wrinkled shirt. Mark, he says, offering his hand, which I ignore while keeping my eyes on him. She said you were out of town. Yes, it seems I arrived just in time, I reply, my tone sharp. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. No, not at all, Mark says, glancing at Sarah for reassurance. I sit down next to Sarah, making her move closer to Mark. So, what brings you two together on this fine evening? My tone is light, but the underlying accusation is clear. We were just catching up, Sarah manages to say, her voice a mix of nervousness and frustration. Catching up, I repeat, letting the words hang heavily between us. I lean back, observing them both. Mark's hand, previously bold, now hesitates mid-air before retreating. The waitress arrives, breaking the tension momentarily. "Another round for the table?" she asks with a practiced smile. "Actually, yes," I say, giving her a tight-lipped smile. "Whatever they're having." I gesture to their nearly full wine glasses and keep them coming. The evening drags on, with forced conversation that schemes superficially over mundane topics. All the while, I plot silently. Every laugh, every shared glance between them adds fuel to the fire of my planned revenge. As they grow more uncomfortable, I find a twisted satisfaction. Finally, unable to withstand the tension, Sarah stands abruptly. "We should go," she announces, avoiding my gaze. "Yes, perhaps that's best," I agree, standing to face them. "After all, we wouldn't want to overstay our welcome, would we?" They mumble their goodbyes, and I watch as they hurry out of the bistro, relief evident in their quickened pace. As I sit back down alone, the remnants of their wine casting long shadows on the tablecloth, a smile curls at the edge of my lips. Tonight was just the start. My revenge would be slow and careful, and by the end, the smell of cigarettes would always remind Sarah of me and this night. The morning after our argument at Le Jardin, the city woke up under a gray, cloudy sky that matched how I felt inside. I sat at the kitchen table, my laptop open but forgotten, as I planned my next move. The coffee beside me was cold and untouched, while my mind raced with ideas for revenge. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. I looked at the clock. 9:30 am. Too early for visitors, especially unexpected ones. Taking a deep breath to calm myself, I walked to the door and opened it. Standing in the hallway is Mike, an old friend from college and now a private investigator. His face is grim, his usual easy-going smile absent. "Mike," I greet him, stepping aside to let him in. "What brings you here so early?" He walks in, his eyes scanning the room before settling on me. "It's about Sarah." I lead him to the kitchen and gesture for him to sit. "What about her?" My voice is steady, but inside, my heart sinks. "I've been doing some digging," Mike starts, his voice low. "You were right to be suspicious. It's not just Mark. There are others." The revelation hits me like a punch to the gut, but I keep my expression controlled. "Others," I echo, masking the sharp sting of betrayal with curiosity. Mike nods, pulling out a folder from his bag and placing it on the table. "I've been following her for a couple of weeks now. Mark is just the tip of the iceberg. She's been careful, but not careful enough. Look." He opens the folder to reveal photos and various documents. As I sift through the papers, each piece adds weight to my resolve. Pictures of Sarah with different men at various locations, receipts, and even more damning, messages from her phone that Mike managed to secure through his contacts. "Do you want to know everything?" Mike asks, his voice serious. I look up from the photos, my jaw set. "Everything," I confirm, my voice a whisper of fury. Mike continues, detailing each encounter, the connections between the men, and their frequent meetings. As he speaks, a plan begins to crystallize in my mind. Revenge, yes, but also exposure. I want her to feel the full impact of what she's done, both publicly and painfully. "Thanks, Mike. I needed to know," I say as he finishes. "I'll handle it from here." He nods, understanding that I'm serious. "Just be careful, James. This could get messy." After Mike leaves, I spend the rest of the day getting ready. By evening, I'm set. I go to a popular local bar where I know Sarah will be tonight, based on what Mike told me. The bar is buzzing with energy when I arrive. I spot Sarah laughing, surrounded by friends and oblivious to the storm about to break. I walk up to her, my approach unnoticed until I'm right beside her. "Sarah," I say loudly enough for her friends and the surrounding people to hear. Her laughter dies as she turns to face me, her smile fading into a mask of confusion and fear. "James, what are you?" "I think everyone here should know exactly who you are," I interrupt, my voice carrying across the immediate area. I pull out a stack of photos from my jacket and throw them on the table. They scatter, revealing images of her various liaisons, The crowd around us goes silent, eyes flicking between the photos, Sarah and me. Sarah's face crumples, her usual composure shattered as she realizes the extent of my knowledge. "This is who Sarah really is," I announce, my voice cold and clear. "A cheat and a liar." I turn and leave her there, the sounds of whispered shock and Sarah's stifled sobs fading behind me. The game has just begun, and the rules are mine to dictate. As I step out into the night, the first drops of rain begin to fall, washing away the remnants of my former life. The rain pours relentlessly, as if nature itself conspires to cleanse the city of its hidden sins. It's been 2 days since the public shaming at the bar, and the fallout has been immediate and devastating. For Sarah, her social circle has evaporated, and her reputation is in tatters. As for me, the sweet taste of revenge is turning bitter, the satisfaction I anticipated feeling now hollow and unsatisfying. Tonight, I sit in my dimly lit living room, the only light emanating from the flickering flames in the fireplace. The doorbell rings, slicing through the silence like a sharp knife. Reluctantly, I stand and move toward the door, my steps heavy. I'm not expecting anyone, and part of me dreads who it might be. Opening the door, I'm surprised to see a woman standing there, soaked from the rain, her eyes determined. It's Rebecca, Sarah's sister, whom I haven't seen in years. "Rebecca," I say, puzzled. "What are you doing here?" I ask. "We need to talk, James." "It's about Sarah," she says, pushing past me into the foyer without waiting for an invite. I close the door and follow her into the living room. "What about her?" I ask, my voice sharp with the last bit of anger I have. Rebecca turns to me with a serious look. "You think you know everything, but you don't. Sarah wasn't just cheating on you. She was trying to protect you." Her words stop me cold. "Protecting me? From what?" I scoff, disbelief lacing my voice. "From the truth about your past, James. About your parents," Rebecca states, her eyes locking onto mine. "What are you talking about?" Confusion swirls inside me, mixing with a growing unease. Rebecca takes a deep breath. "Your parents weren't who you thought they were. They were involved in criminal activities, money laundering, to be precise. When they died, you were young, and it was covered up to protect you. Sarah found out, and she's been paying off people who threatened to go public with it." The room spins as her words sink in. "No, that can't be." My voice trails off, the implications of her revelations dawning on me. "Yes, James. And there's more. Mark and the others, they weren't her lovers. They were contacts. People who helped her keep this under wraps. She was meeting with them to negotiate. Not to." Rebecca doesn't finish her sentence, but she doesn't have to. Guilt and horror wash over me as the reality of my actions becomes painfully clear. "But the pictures, the messages?" I ask, desperate for something to cling to, some part of my narrative that still holds. "Staged, mostly, or taken out of context. Sarah did everything to keep this from destroying you. And you destroyed her for it." Rebecca's voice breaks, her disappointment evident. I sink into a chair, my head in my hands. What have I done? The burden of my wrong revenge feels overwhelming. Rebecca's voice becomes gentler. "She still loves you, James. Even after everything. She's ready to forgive you if you can forgive her for hiding this from you." The silence is thick as I think about what she said. After a long pause, I finally ask, "Where is she?" "She's waiting at her apartment," Rebecca replies. "Alone and heartbroken." "But she's waiting for you," Rebecca says, giving me a slip of paper with Sarah's address. When I step outside, the rain has stopped. I breathe in the fresh, cool air, which feels different from the heavy guilt and confusion I've been feeling. As I drive to Sarah's place, thinking about our broken past and uncertain future, I understand that fixing things will be hard and take time. But for the first time in days, I see a small glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild instead of just tearing things down. Second story. A few weeks ago, we were at her house like usual. After I came back from work, she put on a movie, and said she was going to cry because she doesn't feel anything anymore. I asked if it was about our relationship, but she said it was just in general. She hasn't been in a healthy relationship for a while, so I tried to be understanding, but it was hard. The next day, when we hung out, I tried to get closer, but she turned me down. Later, she said it felt like we were just friends, which upset me. The following day, she was packing to go away, and her ex texted her. She didn't tell me this had happened earlier, and when I got annoyed, she asked if I was insecure. We argued, and she said she needed space, and we wouldn't talk as much because she'd be busy. I agreed to avoid more arguments. After that, things seemed okay until this past week. We kept arguing over small things. Her Snapchat score kept going up, and she didn't respond to me but stayed at the same location. When she went to the store, she didn't reply for a while, and her location stayed the same. I found out that people can freeze their location. Even when she said she was going to bed, her Snapchat score kept going up. I'm worried she might be cheating, but I don't have solid proof.